There's a real study that measured this. Thousands of people, tracked for decades, tested for IQ, tracked for wealth. And the result embarrassed a lot of very smart people. Your intelligence predicts your paycheck. It does almost nothing to predict your net worth. Stick with me, because this isn't a motivational claim. It's a real economics finding, and once you understand the mechanism behind it, you'll start noticing it everywhere, in your own life, in people you know, in the story you've been telling yourself about why you're not further ahead. Today I'm walking through 5 specific, documented ways that intelligence quietly gets redirected away from wealth. Not laziness. Not bad luck. Specific, nameable patterns. Here's what we're covering. The research loop that never turns into action, the confidence tax that smart traders pay without noticing, the perfect plan that never launches, the status reset that erases every raise you get, and the compounding cliff, the one that isn't about money at all, it's about time. By the end, you'll know exactly which one is costing you the most right now. Here's the study. Economist Jay Zagorski at Ohio State tracked over 7,000 Americans for decades, testing their intelligence and then measuring their actual wealth later in life. Higher IQ did predict a higher salary, a few $100s more per IQ point per year. But when he measured total wealth, savings, assets, the stuff that actually makes you financially free, the relationship with IQ basically disappeared. Smart people didn't save more. In some measures of financial distress, like maxed out credit cards, very high IQ didn't protect people at all. So if intelligence isn't the variable, what is? That's what the next 5 minutes are about. The first pattern is the one smart people are proudest of. You find an opportunity, investing, a business idea, a new skill, and instead of starting, you study it. You compare options, you read reviews, you build a plan, you find a flaw in the plan, you fix it, you find another flaw. Meanwhile, someone with none of your credentials reads one article, opens an account, and sets up an automatic monthly transfer. They don't feel ready. They start anyway. Here's the part that should bother you. In behavioral finance research on individual investors, the traders who did the most analysis and traded the most actively actually earned less than the market itself. In one large study of over 66,000 brokerage accounts, the most active traders earned about 11.4% a year while the market returned 17.9% over that same stretch. More research, more activity, worse outcome. The problem wasn't a lack of intelligence. It was that intelligence got spent on activity instead of decisions. Once you know you're smart, you start believing that intelligence should translate into an edge. If you're sharp enough to master your field, surely you're sharp enough to beat the market too. This is exactly the assumption the data punishes. Multiple independent analyses of S&P 500 returns show that if you'd missed just the 10 best trading days over a multi-decade stretch, 10 days, out of thousands, your annual return would be roughly cut in half. Miss the best 30 days, and in some periods your return falls close to zero. And here's the cruel twist, those best days cluster right next to the worst ones. The instinct to get out when things look scary is usually the instinct that makes you miss the recovery. The people who beat the market on paper, in their own head, are almost always the same people who'd have done better doing nothing at all. Quick detour, because this next part matters. In the mid-2000s, a small Finnish game studio called Rovio built 51 games. All 51 failed. The company was nearly bankrupt, down to 12 employees. Their 52nd attempt was a game about slinging birds at pigs. Angry Birds became one of the best-selling mobile games in history. 51 failures weren't a sign they weren't good enough, they were the tuition. The difference between them and a company that quietly gives up at failure number 10 is that they kept shipping. This is the trap that Rovio almost fell into, and almost every capable person falls into at some point. You get an idea worth building. Because it matters to you, you decide to do it properly, full plan, full research, every flaw addressed before anyone sees it. Every time you're close to launching, you find one more thing that isn't ready. Meanwhile, someone else launches something rough. Bad pricing, weak branding, obvious flaws. They get real customers, real complaints, real feedback, and they fix real problems instead of imagined ones. A business that exists, however imperfect, will always out-earn a business that's still being perfected in private. You finally get the raise, the bonus, the higher-paying role. This is where wealth is actually built or lost, because wealth isn't your income, it's the gap between what you earn and what you spend. The moment your income goes up, your brain quietly resets your idea of normal spending to match it. A bigger place, a better car, nicer everything. This is exactly why so many people who earn 6 figures still feel like they're one bad month from trouble. The income changed, but the gap didn't widen. A raise you don't protect isn't a raise. It's just a new, more expensive version of the same starting line. Every trap so far has cost you money. This last one is different. It costs you decades, and unlike money, you cannot earn decades back. Here's the part that should actually scare you. In investing, the earliest years matter more than the later ones, because they have the most time to compound. That means every year you spend getting ready isn't a neutral delay, it's the most valuable year you'll ever have, gone. Two people, same income, same intelligence. One starts investing small amounts at 25. The other spends a decade reading and researching, starts at 35 with more money and more confidence. Run the math over 30 years, and the person who started earlier, with less knowledge, less certainty, less confidence, almost always finishes further ahead. Not because they were smarter. Because compounding doesn't check your credentials. It only checks the calendar. So go back to the study we opened with. Smart people don't stay broke because they lack the ability to figure this out. Clearly, they don't lack that. They stay broke because intelligence quietly gets redirected, toward research instead of decisions, toward confidence instead of humility, toward perfecting instead of shipping, toward status instead of margin, toward waiting instead of starting. None of that is a character flaw. It's a default setting. And defaults can be changed. 3 things to actually do. First, next time you catch yourself still researching something, give yourself a decision deadline, days, not months. Second, if you haven't started investing, automate something small today. You don't need the perfect fund, you need the first month. Third, whatever you've been perfecting in private, cut it down to something one real person can see this week. If this reframed anything for you, subscribe, there's a lot more of this kind of research-backed breakdown coming.